Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at Grim the Collier of Croyden, otherwise known as the Devil and his Dame, or the Devil and his Dame with the Devil and Saint Dunston. Spoilers there in the title, by apparently William Haughton, which I didn't know until literally 2-3 minutes ago when I actually opened a book and went, so that's nice. We are a relatively small room today. We've got some people who are in theory joining us, though they might suddenly magically appear as we go along, and we'll slot them in as we go. But otherwise, we're going to proceed with who we have. And so reading today, probably reading the prologue, as well as Minos, Forrest, Musgrave and Joan, is...
Rachael, actor on the East Coast.
Reading Dunstan, Aeacus, Belphegor, and Shorthose is...
Hi, I'm Lynn, teacher on the West Coast of the United States, obviously.
Reading Pluto, Morgan, Akercock, and Grim is...
Lois, retired teacher in London.
And reading Malbecco, Lacy, Clinton, and Clack is...
Francis, actor, living in Amsterdam.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be filling in probably a number of parts as we go, seeing how that sort of bounces along. Otherwise, hopefully, additional bodies will appear so that we can flow more freely. But otherwise, we're going to dive straight into the text. We've got a fair amount of text to get through this session. So we're going to read the prologue and go into Act 1 in relatively short order. So without further ado, prologue, come forth and prologue.
You're welcome. But our plot I dare not tell ye, for fear I fright a lady with great belly, or should a scold be among you, I dare say she'd make more work than the devil in the play. Heard you not never how an actor's wife, whom he, fond fool, loved dearly as his life, coming in's way did chance to get a jape, as he was tired in his devil's shape, and how equivocal a generation was then begot and brought forth thereupon. Let it not fright you. This I dare to say, he is no lecherous devil in our play. He will not rumble Peg, nor Joan, nor Nan, but has enough at home to do with Marian, whom he so little pleases, she in scorn does teach his devilship to wind the horn. But if your children cry when Robin comes, you may to still them buy here pears or plums. Then sit you quiet all who are come in. Saint Dunstan will soon enter and begin.
And after that jolly prologue, Act 1, Scene 1, a place being provided for the Devil's Consistory. Enter St. Dunstan with his beads, book, and crozier staff, etc.
Envy, that always waits on virtue's train and tears the graves of quiet sleeping souls, hath brought me after many hundreds years to show myself again upon the earth. Know then, who list, that I am English born. My name is Dunstan. Whilst I lived with men, chief primate of the Holy English Church. I was begotten in West Saxony. My father's name was Hurstan, my mother's Sinefred. Endowed with my merit's legacy, I flourished in the reign of 7 great kings. The first was Athelstan, whose niece, Elfleda, malicious tongues reported I defiled. Next him came Edmund, then Edred, then Edwy, and after him reigned Edgar, a great prince, but full of many crimes which I restrained. Edward his son, the last and lastly Ethelred. With all these kings was I in high esteem, and kept both them and all the land in awe. And had I lived, the Danes had never boasted their then beginning conquest of this land. Yet some accuse me for a conjurer by reason of those many miracles which heaven for holy life endowed me with. But whoso looks into the golden legend, that sacred register of holy saints, shall find me by the Pope canonized, and haply the cause of this report may rise by reason of a vision which I beheld in great Edgar's days, being that time abbot of Glastonbury, which for it was a matter of some worth, I did make known to few until this day. But now I purpose that the world shall see how much those slanders have wronged me. Nor will I trouble you with courts and kings, or drive a fainted battle out of breath, or keep a coil myself upon the stage. But think you see me in my secret cell, armed with my portus, bidding of my beads, and on a sudden I am overcome with sleep. If aught ensue, watch you, for Dunstan dreams.
And he layeth down to sleep. Lightning and thunder! The curtains drawn on a sudden. Pluto, Minos, Aeacus, Rhadamanthus set in council. Before them Malbecco's ghost guarded with furies.
You ever dreaded judges of black hell, grim Minos, Aeacus, and Rhadamanthus, lords of Cocytus, Styx, and Phlegethon, princes of darkness, Pluto's ministers. Know that the greatness of his present cause hath made ourselves in person sit as judge to hear the arraignment of Malbecco's ghost. Stand forth, thou ghastly pattern of despair, and to this powerful synod tell thy tale, that we may hear, if thou canst justly say, thou wert not author of thine own decay.
Infernal Jove, great prince of Tartary, humble reverence, poor Malbecco speaks, still trembling with the fatal memory of his so late concluded tragedy. I was, with thanks to your great bounty, bred a wealthy lord whilst I lived on earth, and so might have continued to this day, had not that plague of mankind fallen on me. For I, poor man, joined woe unto my name by choosing out a woman for my wife, a curse ordained for the world. Fair Helena, fair she was indeed, but foully stained with inward wickedness. I kept her bravely and loved her dear, but that dear love did cost my life and all. To reckon up 1,000 of her pranks, her pride, her wasteful spending, her unkindness, her false dissembling, seeming sanctity, her scolding, pouting, prating, meddling, and 200 more of the same stamp, were but to heap an endless catalogue of what the world is plagued with every day. But for the main of that I have to tell, I chanced thus. Late in a rainy night, a crew of gallants came unto my house, and will I, nil I, would forsooth be lodged. I brought them in, and made them all good cheer, such as I had in store, and lodged them soft. Amongst them one yelped Paradel, the falsest thief that ever trod on ground, robbed me, and with him stole away my wife. I, for I loved her dear, pursued the thief, and after many days in travel spent, found her amongst a crew of satyrs, wild, kissing and colling all the livelong night. I spake her fair and prayed her to return, but she in scorn commands me to be gone, and glad I was to fly to save my life. But when I backward came unto my house, I find it spoiled, and all my treasures gone. Desperate and mad, I ran I knew not whither, calling and crying out on heaven and fate, till, seeing none to pity my distress, I threw myself down headlong on a rock, and so concluded all my ills at once. Now, judge you, justice benchers, if my wife were not the instrument to end my life.
Can it be possible, ye lords of hell, Malbecco's tale of women should be true? Is marriage now become so great a curse that whilom was the comfort of the world?
Women, it seems, have lost their native shame, as no man better may complain than I, though not of any whom I made my wife, but of my daughter, who procured my fall.
It is strange what plaints are brought to us every day of men made miserable by marriage, so that Amongst 1,000, scarcely 10 have not some grievous action against their wives.
My lord, if Rhadamanth might counsel you, your grace should send someone into the world that might make proof if it be true or no.
And wisely hast thou counselled, Rhadamanth. Call in Belphegor to me presently.
And one of the Furies goes for Belphegor.
He is the fittest that I know in hell to undertake a task of such import, for he is patient, mild, and pitiful, humours but ill agreeing with our kingdom.
Enter Belphegor.
And here he comes. Belphegor, so it is, we in our awful synod have decreed upon occasion to ourselves best known, that thou from hence shalt go into the world and take upon thee the shape of a man, in which estate thou shalt be married. Choose thee a wife that best may please thyself, and live with her a 12-month and a day. Thou shalt be subject unto human chance, so far as common wit cannot relieve thee. Thou shalt of us receive 10,000 pounds, sufficient stock to use for thy increase. But whatsoever happens in that time, look not from us for succor or relief. This shalt thou do, and when the time's expired, bring word to us what thou hast seen and done.
With all my heart, my lord, I am content, so I may have my servant, Akercock, to wait on me, as if he were my man, that he may witness likewise what is done.
We are contented, he shall go with thee.
But what meantime decrees your majesty of poor Malbecco?
He shall rest with us until Belphegor do return again, and as he finds, so will we give his doom. Come, let us go and set our spile forth, who for a time must make experiment, if hell be not on earth as well as here.
And they exit. It thunders and lightens. The devils go forth. Dunstan rising runneth about the stage, laying about him with his staff.
Satan, avaunt! Thou art man's enemy. Thou shalt not live amongst us so unseen, so to betray us to the prince of darkness. Satan, avaunt! I do conjure thee hence. What dreamest thou, Dunstan? Yea, I dreamed indeed. Must then the devil come into the world? Such is belike the infernal king's decree. Well, be it so, for Dunstan is content. Mark well the process of the devil's disguise, who happily may learn you to be wise. Women, beware, and make your bargains well. The devil, to choose a wife, is come from hell.
And exit Dunstan. And there we'll pause. So we go from... I really like the prologue. It's got some really nice details to it that I really like. I love the way, if the kids don't keep quiet, send them for sweets. I'm thinking... yeah, that could that hasn't changed. And the beginning of it, I don't want to tell you the plot because it might scare you so much that any pregnant women might suddenly give birth. It would be awful. Which sets us up for that whole sort of the entire plot line here, which is that women are so awful that it drives men to suicide. Let's test that proposition. It's not a good starting point as a plot. It's sort of
lose, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's like, what's the right answer to that question?
Yeah, I think we can just say the question by its nature is deeply suspect. I mean, I like the plot idea of sending a devil down to be a human on Earth, which is an idea which will get picked up again in other plays and other media. Later on is a really good one, but yeah, to test this proposition, this player better go down some interesting paths with that. Otherwise, there's some problems ahead. Lois.
Yeah, well, two things. One, we've probably come across that idea that you add woe to your life if you're a man by taking a wife, and then it's woe man, i.e. woman. We must have had that before, but in case we haven't, I just thought I'd point it out. And the other thing,
almost every medieval play ever.
Yeah, right. The other thing is that Malbecco comes straight out of Spenser's Faerie Queene. That's an episode, and I think it's book 4, where you get a kind of retelling of the Paris Helen story with Paradel and Helenor, and then Malbecco runs after them and discovers that she has been abandoned by Paradel and is now living with a lot of lustful satyrs and quite happy like that. And then when he returns home, he finds he's been robbed, and so he commits suicide. It's very interesting. I mean, this obviously means it's got to be later than the publication of, I think it's book 4. If it's book 4 of the Fairy Queen, then it can't be earlier than 1596, but it isn't anyway. But it's just very interesting to have something referring to that work. I didn't know that this happened.
Francis.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I was going to ask that question, because when I was reading that speech by Malbecco, which I really enjoyed, it felt like a story from another source, and so I was going to ask if anybody knew, and obviously you did, Lois. Yeah, so that's
Yeah, and it does, and maybe that story has, story would have slightly more currency. People would sort of know where it would be, for some parts of the audience, a way of locking into the play as to where it's going. I mean, there's some really nice things. I like the way that Dunstan comes on and sort of sets us up for going, and I've got a note just going, oh, is this going to be a history play? He asked. Which is the sense, we're being given a sort of sense of time, but we're being given a sort of a storytelling sense of history, so there's a nice distance to that. And then he falls asleep and he dreams this, presumably. Oh, that's the intimation, but and then he's fighting those dreams. It's quite dynamic. I mean, it's got life to it. It's quite engaging. It's just the proposition isn't good. Francis.
Yeah, I was also wondering why St Dunstan and why this particular type of story.
We've read another play where Sir Dunstan is a character. It involved the reign of King Edgar. It's that I can't remember the name. Was it an act to know a knave, or it's one of these things with a historical setting, and Elfrida appears in it as a character. I don't know, some time ago now. But anyway, I think he was thought to be a historical character, and he's rattling off the names of the kings in whose reigns he lived. But yes, I don't know. I mean, unless it becomes more obvious later why St Dunstan rather than somebody else as the presenter.
Yeah, at the moment, the only answer we have is why not? Let's see where the text leads us. We'll dive into some action now on the real world with Act 1, Scene 2. Enter Morgan, Earl of London, Lacy, Earl of Kent, with Miles Forrest.
My Lord of Kent, your honour knows my mind, that ever has and still does honour you, accounting it my daughter's happiness amidst her other infelicities, that you vouchsafe to love her as you do. How gladly I would grant your lordship's suit, the heavens can witness, which with ruthless ears have often heard my yet unpitied plaints. And could I find some means for her recovery, none but yourself should have her to your wife.
My Lord of London, now long time it is since Lacy first was suitor to your daughter, the fairest Honorea, in whose eyes honour itself in love's sweet bosom lies. What shall we say, or seem to strive with heaven, who speechless sent her first into the world? In vain it is for us to think to loose that which by nature's self we see is bound. Her beauty with her other virtues joined, a gift sufficient, though she want a tongue. And some will count it virtue in a woman still to be bound to unoffending silence, though I could wish with half of all my lands that she could speak. But since it may not be, 'twere vain to imprison beauty with her speech.
Have you not heard, my lords, the wondrous fame of holy Dunstan, abbot of Glastonbury? What miracles he hath achieved of late, and how the rood of Dovercourt did speak, confirming his opinion to be true, and how the holy consistory fell, with all the monks that were assembled there, saving one beam, whereon this Dunstan sat. And other more such miracles are these. They say he is of such religious life that angels often use to talk with him, and tell to him the secrets of the heavens. No question, if your honors would but try, he could procure my lady for to speak.
And believe me, Forrest, thou hast well advised, for I have heard of late much talk of him.
Is not that Dunstan he who checked the king about his privy dealing with the nun, and made him do the penance for the fault?
The same is he, for whom I straight will send. Miles Forrest shall in post to Glastonbury, and gently pray the abbot for my sake to come to London. Sure, I hope the heavens have ordained Dunstan to do Morgan good.
Let us dispatch him thither presently, for I myself will stay for his return, and see some end or other ere I go.
Come then, Lord Lacy. Forrest, come away.
And they exit. Act 1, Scene 3. Enter Belphegor, attired like a physician, presumably with a hat covering his horns or whatever. Akercock, his man, in a tawny coat.
Now is Belphegor an incarnate devil come to earth to seek out a dame. Hell be my speed, and so I hope it will. In lovely London are we here arrived, where, as I hear, the Earl hath a fair daughter, so full of virtue and soft modesty, that yet she never gave a man foul word.
Marry, indeed, they say she cannot speak.
For this cause have I taken this disguise, and will profess to be a physician, come up on purpose for the cure, to cure the lady. Marry, no may shall she bind me but herself, and she, do I intend, shall be my wife.
But master, tell me one thing, by the way. Do you not mean that I shall marry too?
No, Akercock, thou shalt be still unwed. And if they be as bad as is reported, one wife will be enough to tire us both.
Oh, then you mean that I shall now and then have, as it were, a course at base with her.
Not so, not so. That's one of marriage's plagues, which I must seek to shun, amongst the rest, and live in sweet contentment with my wife. When I back again return to hell, all women may be bound to reverence me for saving of their credits, as I will. But who comes here?
Enter Captain Clinton.
This needs must tickle Musgrave to the quick, and stretch his heartstrings farther by an inch, that Lacy must be married to his love, and by that match my market is near marred, for Mariana, who I most affect, but I must cast about by some device to help myself and to prevent the Earl.
This fellow fitly comes to meet with me, who seems to be acquainted with the Earl. A good fortune guide you, sir.
As much to you.
Might I entreat a favour at your hands?
What's that?
I am a stranger here in England, sir, brought from my native home upon report that the Earl's daughter wants the use of speech. I have been practiced in such cures ere now, and willingly would try my skill on her. Let me request you so to favour me, as to direct me to her father's house.
With all my heart, and welcome shall you be to that good Earl who mourns his daughter's want. But they have for a holy abbot sent, who can, men say, do many miracles, in hope that he will work this wondrous cure.
Whate'er he be, I know 'tis past his skill, nor any in the world besides myself did ever sound the depths of that device.
Enter Musgrave.
Musgrave, well met. I needs must speak with you.
I came to seek you.
Tarry you a while. Shall I entreat you, sir, to walk before with this same gentleman? I'll overtake you.
Exeunt Belphegor and Akercock.
This is the news. The Earl of Kent is come, and in all haste the marriage must be made. Your lady weeps, and knows not what to do, but hopes that you will work some means or other to stop the cross proceedings of the Earl.
Alas, poor Clinton, what can Musgrave do? Unless I should by stealth convey her thence, on which 1,000 dangers do depend.
Well, to be brief, because I cannot stay, Thus stands the case. If you will promise me to work your cousin Marian to be mine, so I'll so devise that you shall purchase her, and therefore tell me if you like the match.
With all my heart, sir. Yea, and thank you, too.
Then say no more, but leave the rest to me, for I have plotted how it shall be done. I must go follow yon fair gentleman, on whom I build my hopes. Musgrave, adieu.
Clinton, farewell. I'll wish thee good success.
And they exit. End of Act 1. So the plot thickens. So we're introduced to Morgan, who's got a daughter who is silent. Lacy, who would like to marry her. They suggest going to Dunstan. We've answered the Dunstan question. Why is there a Dunstan? Is a noble, God-fearing man who can work minor miracles. As opposed to Belphegor, who is a demonic creature, but is also in the running for curing this lack of speech, but in exchange for marriage, hope so that Belphegor can continue his cunning plan to prove or disprove the question set in hell. And yes, we also have additional suitors for this Honorea, and also complications there as the friend of the rival who wants to marry the cousin of the rival. There's an awful lot of people threading in and out of interweaving interests. We have Alan Scott joining the room, who will be reading, in fact, that mute character who's currently mute, which spoilers, they might say something later. Someone's going to cure her. It's either that she's just got nothing to say. Lois.
Yeah, I was just going to say that this is looking like the same basic framework as John of Kent and John of Cumber and Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay. A couple of magicians or tricksters of some sort in competition.
Yeah, and it's dancing along. It's mostly just doing plot. It's fed us a lot of plot in a relatively short amount of time, actually, and it's all sort of intermingled, and we've sort of got an idea who people are. So yeah, it's sort of moving forward in a forwardy kind of direction. Any additional thoughts before we dive into Act 2? As I say, it's not exactly overloading us with detail on character.
No,
it doesn't seem that interested in that stage. We're just looking at who the relationship of people are to each other, and demonstrating plot. But apart from the basic premise, it's bouncing along quite nicely. It's just basic premise. That kind of week for premises. Any other thoughts before we go into Act 2? No. Okay. Into Act 2, Scene 1 then. Enter Morgan, Lacy, Dunstan, Forrest, Honorea, and Marian.
Thou holy man, to whom the higher powers have given the gift of cures beyond conceit, welcome thou art unto Earl Morgan's house, the house of sorrow yet, unless by thee our joys may spring anew, which, if they do, reward and praise shall both attend on you.
and we will ever reverence thy name, making the chronicles to speak thy praise, so Honorea may have her speech.
My lords, you know the hallowed gift of tongues comes from the self-same power that gives us breath. He binds and looseth them at his dispose, and in his name will Dunstan undertake to work this cure upon fair Honorea. Hang there my harp, my solitary muse, companion of my contemplation. And lady, kneel with me upon the earth, that both our prayers may ascend to heaven.
And yes, he's hung a harp on the wall, and that now there's some kneeling down. Then enters Clinton with Belphegor terming himself Castigliano, and Akercock as Robin Goodfellow.
So shall you do the lady a good turn, and bind both him and me to you forever.
I have determined what I mean to do.
Here be the earls, and with them is the friar.
What, is he praying?
So methinks he is, but I'll disturb him. By your leave, my lords, here is a stranger from beyond the seas will undertake to cure your lordship's daughter.
The holy abbot is about the cure.
Yea, but, my lord, he'll never finish it.
How canst thou tell? What countryman art thou?
I am by birth, my lord, a Spaniard born, and by descent come of a noble house, though for the love I bear to secret arts, I never cared to seek for vain estate. Yet by my skill I have increased my wealth, my name Castiliano, and my birth no baser than the best blood of Castile. Hearing of your daughter's strange infirmity, joined with such matchless beauty and rare virtues, I crossed the seas on purpose for her good. Fond man, presuming on the weakest skill, that thinkest by art to overrule the heavens, thou knowest not what it is thou undertakest. No, no, my lord, your daughter must be cured by fasting, prayer, and religious works. Myself, for her, will sing a solemn mass, and give her 3 sips of the holy chalice, and turn my beads with aves and with creeds, and thus, my lord, your daughter must be helped.
And that was Dunstan just reading there. I'll ask Alan to read the rest of Dunstan for the scene, because you do talk to yourself rather a lot. Failure in my doubling there. Belphegor continues in the reply.
Zoons, what a prating keeps this bolt-picked friar. My lord, here's church work for an age. Tush, I will cure her in a minute's space, that she will speak as plain as you or I.
And Dunstan's harp sounds on the wall.
Hark, hark, my lord. The holy abbot's harp sounds by itself so hanging on the wall.
Unhallowed man that scorns the sacred reed, hark, have a testimony of my truth. Sounds heavenly music with an angel's hand to testify Dunstan's integrity and prove thy active boast of no effect.
Tush, sir, that music was to welcome me. The harp hath got another master now. I warrant you, 'twill never tune you more.
Who should be master of my harp but I?
Try, then, what service it will do for you.
He tries to play, but cannot.
Thou art some sorcerer or necromancer, who by thy spells dost hold these holy strings.
Cannot your holiness unbind the bounds? Then I perceive my skill is more of force. You see, my lord, the abbot is but weak. I am the man must do your daughter good.
What wilt thou ask for to work thy cure?
That without which I will not do the cure. Herself to be my wife, for which intent I came from Spain. Then, if she shall be mine, say so, or keep her else forever dumb.
The Earl of Kent, mine honourable friend, hath to my daughter been a suitor long, and much it would displease both her and him to be prevented of their wished love. Ask what thou wilt beside, and I will grant it.
Alas, my lord, what should that crazy earl do with so young a virgin as your daughter? I dare stand to her choice twixt him and me.
And I will pawn mine earldom with my love, and lose them both if I lose Honorea.
A match, my lord, will stand unto the choice.
I am contented if the earl be pleased.
I were not worthy of her, did I doubt.
Then there it goes. Fetch me a bowl of wine. This is the match, my lord, before I work. If she refuse the earl, she must be mine.
It is.
And one brings him a cup of wine. He strains the juice of the herb into it.
Now shall your lordship see a Spaniard's skill, who from the plains of New America can find out sacred simples of esteem to bind and unbind nature's strongest powers. This herb, which mortal men have seldom found, can I with ease procure me when I list, and by this juice shall Honorea speak. Here, lady, drink the freedom of thy heart, and may it teach thee long to call my love.
And she drinks.
Now, lovely Honorea, thou art free. Let thy celestial voice make choice of me.
Base alien, mercenary fugitive, presumptuous Spaniard, that with shameless pride darest ask an English lady for thy wife. I scorn my slave should honour thee so much. For myself, I like myself the worse, that thou darest hope the gaining of my love. Go, get thee gone, the shame of my esteem, and seek some drudge that may be like thyself. But as for you, good Earl of Kent, methinks your lordship, being of these years, should be past dreaming of a second wife. Fie, my lord, 'tis lust in doting age. I will not patronise so foul a sin. An old man dote on youth, 'tis monstrous. Go home and rest your weary head. 'Twere pity such a brow should learn to bud. And lastly, unto you, my lord and father, your love to me is too much overseen, that in your care and counsel should devise to tie your daughter's choice to two such grooms. You may elect for me, but I'll dispose and fit myself far better than both those. And so I will conclude, you're as you please.
And exit Honorea, mic drop in a chafe.
Indeed.
Are you this making of a woman speak? I think they all wish she were dumb again.
How now, my lord? What are you, in a muse?
I would to God her tongue were tied again.
Aye, marry, sir, but that's another thing. The devil cannot tie a woman's tongue. I would the friar could do that with his beads. But 'tis no matter. You, my lord, have promised. If she refuse the earl, she would be mine.
Win her and wear her, man, with all my heart.
Oh, I'll haunt her till I make her stoop. Come, my lord. This was to try her voice. Let's in and court her. One of us shall speed.
Happy man be his dole that misseth her, so say I.
My weaker senses cannot apprehend the means this stranger used to make her speak. There is some secret mystery therein, concealed from Dunstan, which the heavens reveal, that I may scourge this bold, blaspheming man who holds religious worths of little worth.
Exeunt. Remaining on stage, Clinton and Forrest.
Now, Captain Clinton, what think you of me?
Methinks as yet the jest holds pretty well. The one hath taught her to deny himself, the other wooed so long he cannot speed.
This news will please young Musgrave.
Marry will it, and I will hasten to acquaint him with them. Come, let's away.
And they exit. So, yeah, there's lots of nice things in this scene. There are lots of problematic things in this scene, in the sense that it is in a sense it is a good joke that yes, we will make her speak, and then you find out what she's going to say, and it's great that she has opinions and she states them, and is going to have control of her own destiny and things. It's a bit unfortunate. The first thing she says is just basically, "Go away, you foreigner! I don't like you." It's just going, oh dear. Turns out she's signed up to UKIP. There is that nice sort of competitive thing going on between Dunstan and Belphegor, and all this stuff with the harp, of which I haven't quite fully unpacked. But yeah, it's doing some interesting things. Thoughts from the room, Rachael.
Her giant explosion when she can first speak. What is it? Callisto and Melibea. It reminds me of that it's the, extremely angry woman, very combative with these suitors, that she chases them off. Maybe, I don't know, you could have some of that there, or do some sort of dual show with that, 2-for-1 special double viewing.
Yeah, we've got a number of plays where we've got multiple suitors for a single lady. I mean, I can't remember which one it was, but there was one. It was basically everybody loves X, and X is not having any of it. But yeah, you get that in Callisto and Melody, and yeah, of course, in terms of the question of where do you place this text, we've got plenty of demon or fairy universe stuff that this can go into. I think, as Lois was already saying, it's a variation on a theme here. Lynn.
Yeah, the casual xenophobia is unfortunate, but I also find it interesting that really basically all she has to say is, neither of these choices are appropriate. I don't want either of them. And I'm not too happy with my father for trying to foist one of them on me. This is like the first time I picked up on the fact that Lacy is significantly older than the object of his desire. So and then like she leaves the room and it's like, oh my God, I wish we hadn't made her talk at all. So it's like all she has to do is say, I want some control over my own body and my own marital status, and they're like, oh man, what a harpy.
Yeah, and they don't come out well out of that at all, because you're right, it sort of immediately goes to well, it looks like that what's his name in hell might have been right. Ching. Lois.
Yeah, the only thing is that Morgan has said that both Lacy and Honorea would be upset if he broke off this marriage. He apparently is under the impression that she's perfectly happy with it. So I don't know if something funny has happened to her, whether she's just been, whether he hasn't understood the signs she's been making all these years.
Yes, there might be some loose ends to quietly tweak. Francis.
Yeah, I was wondering if it's going to turn out that Honorea's waspish outburst is some sort of product of Belphegor's sorcery.
Yeah, it's yes. We're terribly sorry, but we have to use evil magic. You can have the good magic or the evil magic. Which would you like? So the evil magic never quite comes out the way you're hoping. It's always a little unfortunate. But it is cheaper. It is cheaper magic. Any other thoughts before we move on and encounter the other title? We've mostly been focusing on the Devil and his Dame with the Devil and Saint Dunston. Let us segue over to Act 2, Scene 2, and Grim the Collier of Croyden. Enter Parson Shorthose and Grim the Collier.
Now, Master Parson, grief has made my heart and me a parabalance as heavy as lead. Every night I dream I am a town top, and that I am whipped up and down with a scourge stick of love and the metal of affliction. And when I wake, I find myself stark naked and as cold as a stone. Now judge how I am tumbled and tossed. Poor Grim the Collier hath wished himself burnt up amongst his coals.
Oh, Grim, be wise, dream not of love. My sorrows cannot fancy move. If Jug love thee, love her again. If not, thy kindness then refrain.
I'm not skilled in your rhyming, Master Parson, but that which is bred in the flesh will never come out of the bone. I've seen as much as another man. My travel should teach me. There's never a day in the week, but I carry coals from Croyden to London. And now when I rise in the morning to harness my horses and load my cart, methinks I have a tailor sewing stitches in my heart. When I'm driving my cart, my heart that wanders one way, my eyes, they leer another, my feet, they lead me, I know not whither, but now and then into a slough over head and ears, so that poor Grim, that before was over shoes in love, is now over head and ears in dirt and mire.
Well, Grim, my counsel shall suffice to help thee, but in any wise be ruled by me, and thou shalt see, as thou lovest her, she shall love thee.
Ah, Lord, but do you think that will be so? I should laugh till I tickle to see that day, and forswear sleep all the next night hereafter. Oh, Master Parson, I am so haltered in affection that I may tell you in secret, since there's nobody else hears me, I take no care how I fill my sacks. Every time I come to London, my coals are found faulty. I've been 5 times pilloried, my coals given to the poor, and my sacks burned before my face. It were a shame to speak thus, but truth will come to light. Oh, Joan, thou hast thrown the coal dust of thy love into my eyes, and stricken me quite blind.
Now, for God the Collier chew this well, for beauty Jug doth bear away the bell. And I love her. Then, Collier, thou must miss, for Parson's Shorthose vows Jug shall be his. But here's how, Grim, I have that in my head to plot that how thou shalt the maiden wed.
Oh, but are you sure you have that in your head? Oh, for a hammer to knock that out. One blow at your pate would lay all open to me and make me as wise as you.
Thinkest thou I do so often look for nothing in my learned book, as that I cannot work the feat? I warrant I'll the miller cheat, and make Jug thine, in spite of him. Will this content thee, neighbor Grim?
Content me, aye, and so highly, that if you do this feat for me, you hire me to you as one hireth an ox or an ass, to use or to ride, to spur, or anything, yours to demand, miserable Grim, Joan's handmaid, for so I've called myself ever since last May Day, when she gave me her hand to kiss.
Well, let's away, and in all haste about it, ere the day be past, and ever after, if thou hast her, acknowledge me to be thy master.
I will, sir. Come, let's away. The best drink in Croyden's yours. I have it for you, even a dozen of jugs, to Jug's health.
And exuent both. Yeah, so I can absolutely detect now the hand of William Haughton in this, because in the evenings we've been doing some text which he had a hand in, which involved comedy, rhyming, verse, priest figures, which is remarkably similar to this. So I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, because he might not have written those bits. But yeah, in Lost Dominion we have a brilliant comedy double act of 2 friars, and here we have a rather fun parson who is whose verses verse versus prose here. Grimm's talking in resolute prose, and we've got this dancing rhyming verse here that's really very silly. Poor Grimm, there's a thing about Collier's short sacking you and being really dodgy. But this one has a reason for why he's an unbeliever. He's not trying to shortchange you. He's just really bad at his job because he's in love. Aww. And so that's what the play's, it's all about love, people. That's what the play's about. Even Grim the Collier is in love, and what's he going to do? Because you don't want to buy coals from a lovesick Collier. Clearly, that's what the moral of the story is. Yeah. So thoughts on Grim, thoughts on Shorthose. I enjoyed that. That was good fun. I mean, it's very silly, simple stuff, but it's quite nice. I just love the way he just constantly confesses to being really rubbish. And I'm so in love. I walk in the mud. I don't know where I'm walking. I suddenly notice I'm just covered in mud because I've just walked off the path. Alan.
Yeah, I missed the first 2 scenes because of internet issues. Had we seen Grim or Shorthose previously, or was this their introduction?
This is their introduction. This is hello.
Because it does seem to almost come in part way through an ongoing discussion.
Yeah, he's so in love. He wishes he could burn himself up with his coals. He's just cold and lonely.
And presumably the punishments, the coals given away and so on, were short measure punishments.
Yeah, so Joan, poor Joan.
otherwise known as Jug.
Yeah.
I did not know that. But
Yeah, that's a nickname that probably doesn't endear him to.
Anyone else picturing Babs Windsor?
Well, yeah, that's what I don't know whether that would be what the interpretation then would have been. I appreciate that's where it's sort of going today.
Well, I think it would be the obvious way to play it today, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Though whether we should resist that temptation, discuss.
The only thing to do with temptation is give in to it, Oscar.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this introduction of Grimm and Shorthose? Francis?
Yeah, I just loved that Grimm's attempt at poetry. Oh, Joan, thou hast thrown the coal dust of thy love into my eyes.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful thing. And even though Shorthose, of course, is a rival as well. So once again, we have a rivalry plot. Shorthose doing these little asides. The parson wants her. Oh, this is back in the days, when you had these naughty parsons wandering around. Lynn.
doesn't he say he says she'll be mine? No. Or does he say that he's going to marry her?
Parson Shorthose vows Jug shall be his.
Yeah, so he doesn't actually say because there might be a little anachronism going, because the clergy was allowed to marry in Protestant countries, including England, when this was written. So that might just be kind of a little anachronism that the authors dropped in, because a Catholic parson would not have been allowed to marry her legitimately. But he doesn't say we're going to get married. He says she's going to
be his. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Shorthose is looking on a short-term basis. I think that's
evidently it was not uncommon in the pre-Reformation and then probably even post-Reformation Catholic Europe for a local a priest to have a housekeeper and just be in basically a long-term domestic relationship with a woman, and it was sort of an open secret, and the parishioners were just like, yeah, whatever. They bent the rules, and the community just accepted it, because it's not reasonable to expect men to live alone. But they were long-term relationships. Not ones.
Right. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, we'll move on to Act 2, Scene 3. I'm going to... Yeah, just, how can I do this going forward? Who is free? As I should have done this while other people were talking. That would have been a plan, wouldn't it? Yeah, that would have been a cunning plan that would have worked too. No, I think it's probably going to have... Oh, no, I think... Yeah, can I get away with it? At least for this scene. Rachael, could you read Marian? I think you're free. So whether you're free later on, the later scenes we're going to all be taking a step to the left. But we'll see how it goes. Act 2, Scene 3. Enter Earl Morgan, Earl Lacy, and Marian.
My lord of Kent, the latter motion doth bind me to you in a higher degree than all those many favours gone before. And now the issue of my help relies only on Mariana's gentleness, who, if she will in such a common good put to her helping hand, the match is made.
You need not make a doubt of Marian, whose love unto her lady were enough, besides her cousins and her own consent, to move her to a greater thing than this.
My lords, if aught there be in Marian that may or pleasure you or profit her, ye shall not need to doubt of my consent.
Gramercy, Marian, and indeed the thing is in itself a matter of no moment, if it be weighed right, and therefore this. Thou knowest the bargain twixt me and the doctor concerning marriage with my only daughter, whom I determined that my lord of Kent should have espoused. But I see her mind is only set upon thy cousin Musgrave, and in her marriage to use constraint were bootless. Therefore, thus we have devised. Lord Lacy is content to lose his part and to resign his title to young Musgrave. But now the doctor will not yield his right. Thus we determine to beguile his hopes. Thou shalt this night be brought unto his bed instead of her, and he shall marry thee. Musgrave shall have my daughter, she her will, and so shall all things sort to our content.
And this thou shalt be sure of, Marian. The doctor's wealth will keep thee royally. Besides, thou shalt be ever near thy friends, that will not see thee wronged by any man. Say then, wilt thou resolve to marry him?
My lords, you know I am but young. The doctor's fit for one of riper years, yet in regard of Honorea's good, my cousin's profit, and all your contents, I yield myself to be the doctor's wife.
'Tis kindly spoken, gentle Marian. Oh, but here the doctor comes.
Then I'll away, lest he suspect aught by my being here.
Exit Lacy.
Do, and let me alone to close with him.
May he never speak that makes a woman speak. She talks now sure for all the time that's past. Her tongue is like a scarecrow in a tree that clatters still with every puff of wind. I have so haunted her from place to place, about the hall, from thence into the parlor, up to the chamber, down into the garden, and still she rails and chafes and scolds as if she were the sessions day in hell. Yet will I haunt her with an open mouth and never leave her till I force her love me.
Now, Master Doctor, what, a match or no?
A match, quoth you? I think the devil himself cannot match her. Or, if he could, I should.
Well, be content. 'Tis I must work the mean to make her yield, whether she will or no. My Lord of Kent is gone hence in a chafe, and now I purpose that she shall be yours, yet to herself unknown. For she shall think that Musgrave is the man, but it shall be you. Seem you still discontented, and no more? Go, Mariana, call thy mistress hither. Now, when she comes, dissemble what you know, and go away as if you cared not for her. So will she the sooner be brought into it.
And exit Marian.
My lord, I thank you for your honest care, and as I may, I will study to requite it.
Enter Honorea and Marian.
But here your daughter comes. No, no, my lord, 'tis not her favor I regard, not her. Your promise, 'tis a challenge which I'll have. It was my bargain, no man else should have her, but that I love her, not that I love her, but I'll not be wronged by anyone, my lord, and so I leave you.
And exit Belphegor.
He's passing cunning to deceive himself, but all the better for the after sport.
Sir, did you send for me?
Honorea, for thee, and thus it is. Howe'er unworthily I have bestowed my love so long upon thee, that will so manifestly contradict me, yet that thou mayest perceive how I esteem thee, I make thyself the guardian of thy love, that thine own fancy may make choice for thee. I have persuaded with my lord of Kent to leave to love thee. Now the peevish doctor swears that his interest he will ne'er resign, therefore we must by policy deceive him. He shall suppose he lieth this night with thee, but Mariana shall supply thy room, and thou with Musgrave in another chamber shall secretly be lodged. When this is done, 'twill be too late to call that back again, so shalt thou have thy mind and be a wife.
But wilt thou, Mariana, yield to this?
For your sake, lady, I will undertake it.
Gramercy, Marian, my noble father, now I acknowledge that indeed you love me.
Well, no more words, but be you both prepared. The night draweth on, and I have sent in secret from Musgrave, that he may be brought unseen to hide suspicion from their jealous eyes.
I warrant you. Come, Marian, let us go.
Exit Honorea and Marian.
And then my lord of Kent shall be my son, Should I go wed my daughter to a boy? No, no. Young girls must have their will restrained, for if the rule be theirs, all runs to naught.
And exit Morgan at his most charming. Yeah, so I mean, it's really it's it's a bed trick. It's a dodgy plan. But there is this constant refrain of just checking consent on Marian's part. I mean, Marian isn't exactly willing, but she's sort of going, well, I'm gonna go along with this because it's probably good in the long term, kind of thing. I mean, it's quite dodgy as a plan, but it's this repeated. Are you sure? Are you sure? There's obviously no pressure being brought to bear on you at all for you to definitely say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lynn.
Yeah. When it got to like, so Marian, who's like probably a rung below on the social ladder. She's a lady in waiting to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, so it will be to her profit. She'll get a rich husband, but still, it was when it was like, so Marian, will you do the bed trick? And she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and Honorea comes in later and going, are you sure?
I'll do it for you. So, but it's hard to know who's fooling because who's the father? Is that Morgan?
Morgan, yeah.
Father, because he lies to Belphegor, the doctor, saying, oh, the Earl of Kent has given up. So we're going to trick my daughter into sleeping with you. But it turns out, no, the Earl of Kent has not given up his suit. Morgan is still determined to have his daughter marry Lacy Kent. So he's lying to Belphegor, and then he tells his daughter, oh, we are going to trick the doctor into sleeping with Marian so that you can have Musgrave. So he's lying to her. So everybody's lying to everybody. So Marian might be lying too.
Lois.
Yeah, and I think what's rather depressing is that bit where Morgan tells Marian, well, marry this guy, and after all, he's rich, and you'll be living close by, so your friends can all kind of protect you in case he turns out to be a sadistic swine, which is always possible since we don't really know a thing about him. I mean, how lovely, yeah.
I mean, Morgan's just so charming here, isn't he? He's just such a great chap. God.
Yeah, where's that best dad ever coffee mug?
Yeah, I think he probably bought it himself. Rachael, then Francis.
I was gonna say Belphegor walking in, giving that whole she talks so much speech. I think they've done actual scientific studies that people, if a woman talks for more than 30 seconds. And a man talks for the same amount of time, people perceive that the woman has talked more, even though they find that oftentimes men talk more. So it's I don't know, just an interesting, just something to take note of, I guess.
Yeah, and it comes, but it also comes within the speech of him going, "I've been following her all day." It's like, I've basically just been stalking her, and and sort of saying, well, maybe there's a cause and effect thing of her telling you to repeatedly go away, might be connected. And so there is a sort of inbuilt element in that, but the one's not 100% certain which way this text sometimes is swinging, because it's like, is it being a bit cleverer with the text, and then so no it's not, and so yeah, it's Francis.
I think it's very interesting the way this play just keeps piling on the offence for modern audiences. We start with misogyny, then we move on to casual xenophobia, and now we've got trafficking of women. It's just it's unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah, with this sort of appearance of consent and constantly going with it, just to make everything just feel even worse, weirdly. Even though so it's so we're getting this coercion element potentially involved as well. I'm glad we're going back to Grimm, because I'm sure everything will be happier there. I hope. I really do. Because I liked Grimm. He was nice. Okay, let's go back to Grimm. Act 2, Scene 4. Well, I say Grimm, the Grimm plotline. I don't know at what point Grimm may or may not appear. Act 2, Scene 4. Enter Clack the miller with Joan.
Be not, Jug, as a man would say, finer than 5pence, or more proud than a peacock. That is, to seem to scorn to call in at Clack's mill as you pass over the bridge. There be as good wenches as you be glad to pay me toll.
Like enough, Clack. I had as live they as I, and a great deal rather too. You, that take toll of so many maids, shall never toll after me. God, what a dangerous thing it is but to peep once into love. I was never so haunted with my harvest work as I am with love's passions.
Ay, but Joan, bear old proverbs in your memory, soft and fair. Now, sir, if you make too much haste to fall foul, ay, and that upon a foul one too, there fades the flower of old Croyden. Tell me but this, is not Clack the miller as good a name as Grimm the collier?
Alas, I know no difference in names to make a maid or choose or to refuse.
You were best to say, no, nor in men neither. Well, I'll be sworn I have, but I have no reason to tell you so much, that care so little for me. Yet hark!
And Clack speaketh in her ear. Enter Grimm and Parson Shorthose.
Oh, Master Parson, there he stands like a scarecrow to drive me away from her that sticks as close to my heart as my shirt to my back or my hose to my heel. Oh, Master Parson Shorthose, Grimm is but a man as another man is. Colliers have but lives as other men have. All is gone if she go from me. Grimm is nobody without her. My heart is in my mouth. My mouth is in my hand. My hand threatens vengeance against the miller, as it were a beadle with a whip in his hand, triumphing over a beggar's back.
Be silent, Grimm, stand close and see, so shall we know how all things be.
In wisdom I am appeased, but in anger I broil, as it were a rasher upon the coals.
I'll not despise the trades ye either have, yet Grimm the collier may, if he be wise, live even as merry as the day is long. For, in my judgment, in his mean estate consists as much content as in more wealth.
Oh, Master Parson, write down this sweet saying of her in Grimm's commendations. She hath made my heart leap like a hobby horse. Oh, Joan, this speech of thine will I carry with me even to my grave.
Be silent then.
Well then, I perceive you mean to lead your life in a coal pit, like one of the devil's drudges, and have your face look like the outward side of an old iron pot or a blacking box.
He calleth my trade into question. I cannot forbear him.
Then you spoil all, neighbor Grimm. I warrant you she'll answer him.
What I intend, I am not bound to show to thee, nor any other but my mother, to whom in duty I submit myself. Yet this I tell thee, though my birth be mean, my honest virtuous life shall help to mend it. And if I marry any in all this life, he shall say boldly he hath an honest wife.
Oh, that it were my fortune to light upon her, on condition my horses were dead and my cart broken, and I bound to carry coals as long as I live, from Croyden to London on my bare shoulders. Master Parson, the flesh is frail. He shall tempt her no longer. She is but weak, and he is the stronger. I'll upon him. Miller, thou art my neighbor, and therein charity holds my hands. But methinks you, having a water gap of your own, you may do as other millers do, grind your grist at home, knock your cogs into your own mill. You shall not cog with her. she doth descry thee, and I defy thee to a mortal fight. And so, Miller, good night. And now, sweet Joan, be it openly known thou art my own.
Well, Grim, since thou art so collier-like, choleric,
Miller, I will not be mealy-mouthed.
I'll give thee fewer words now, because the next time we meet, I'll pay thee all in dry blows. Carry coals at a collier's hands. If I do, let my mill be drowned up in water, and I hanged in the roof.
And if thou lovest me, Grim, forbear him now.
If I love thee, dost thou doubt of that? Nay, rip me up and look into my heart, and thou shalt see thy own face pictured there as plainly as in the proudest looking glass in all Croyden. If I love thee, then tears gush out and show my love.
What, Master Parson, are you there? You remember you promised to win Joan for mine own wearing.
I warrant thee, Clack, but now be gone. Leave me to work that here alone.
Well, farewell, Master Shorthose. Be true when you are trusted.
Exit Clack.
She shall be neither his nor thine, for I intend to make her mine.
If I love thee, Joan, those very words are a purgation to me. You shall see desperation in my face and death marching in my very countenance. If I love.
What, Grim, hath grief drowned thee at last? Are all thy joys overcast? Is Joan in place and now so sad? Her presence, man, should make thee glad.
Good Master Parson, 'twas no fault of mine. He takes occasion where there none was given. I will not blab unto the world my love I owe to him, and shall do whilst I live.
Well, Joan, without all ifs or ands, e per se or a per se or tittle-tattles in the world, I do love thee, and so much that in thy absence I cry when I see thee, and rejoice with all my very heart when I cannot behold thee.
No doubt, thou lovest her well. But listen now to what I tell. Since you are both so well agreed, I wish you make more haste and speed. Tomorrow is holy rood day, when all and nothing take their way. Within the wood a close does stand, encompassed round on either hand with trees and bushes. There will I dispatch your marriage presently.
Oh, Master Parson, your devising pate hath blessed me forever. Joan will have that so. The shorter the work, the sweeter.
And if my mother give but her consent, my absence shall in no case hinder it.
Oh, she, quotha, she is mine already. Will to her presently. Master Parson, 'tis a match. We'll meet you. Now, Miller, do I go beyond you? I have stripped him of the wench as a cook would strip an eel out of her skin, or a pudding out of the case thereof. Now I talk of a pudding. Oh, 'tis my only food. I am an old dog at it. Come, Joan, let us away. I'll pudding you.
Well, if my fortune luckily ensue, as you shall cousin him, I'll cousin you.
And exit. You know, the Grim is someone who's just really in tune with his feelings, isn't he? I mean, it's just, there's none of this, the English reserve stuff that it piles on in, later centuries. This is a guy who he's just over brimming with stuff. He will walk 500 miles and he will walk 500 more. 40 odd miles or whatever it is, the distance from central London to Croydon. It's bless. I've just written bless rather a lot in the margin.
Yeah. I do hope this one turns out happily.
I do. I genuinely do. I am at the moment sort of disentangling. I'm just going, I want to do Grim the Collier of Croyden. I'm not that at the moment wholly sold with the rest of the play, but I'm seeing a mini play of just Grimm because I just think it's rather lovely. Put a few songs in, do some, other extended business. We've got this sort of, there is a spanner in the works. The nature of Joan as a character is really interesting because, she's also sort of reacting to all these people setting upon her, and we get hints of her actual feelings in Aside. But her sort of public persona is really nice and really interesting. There's a lot going on here. Lynn?
I'm actually not clear what's going on because at one point it sounds like Joan reciprocates. And that's kind of sort of generically what we would expect. Grimm is our hero. Grimm is he's the gallant in a way. And structurally, so we would kind of expect her to choose him. But Shorthose says in the end, as you shall cousin him, I'll cousin you. So is he talking to Joan in absentia? I know you're going to trick him and dodge out of the wedding at the last minute, and then I'm going to trick you into sleeping with me. What?
Shorthose has a cunning plan.
But I'm not clear on what Joan's intentionality and what her goals are.
I think she's broadly speaking, Grimm said. she's not publicly declaring it. I think is the point. What Shorthose is talking about is, of course, that he's going to take. They're going to get married in the woods. Somewhere far away from other people. There might be a plan that he hasn't fully articulated for us yet. But you're absolutely right, because Joan does not do demonstrative enthusiasm for anything. That's her sort of primary trait. We just get the little aside at one moment where you go, okay, she's actually cool. But she doesn't demonstrate it to anyone else because everybody else, for the most part, is an arsehole. This opening exchange with Clack is she's just going, oh, fuck off. Francis.
Well, Joan's playing her cards very close to her chest, which, given the way women are treated in this play, is probably a pretty good idea.
Mm. Absolutely, and Grimm is to a degree part of that, in that it's just everything is so massively over the top. He's just at least happily open-hearted about everything, which is nice. Lois.
Yeah, I think millers are traditionally crooks, and I think from what he said at the beginning, every girl who sort of comes by his mill pretty much has to at least kiss him, and who knows what else. He's making this pretty obvious. She should be one of the crowd.
Yeah, there be as good wenches as you be glad to pay me toll, and So he's a disgusting piece of work. And they say in other texts, Collier would be similarly dishonest and untrustworthy, but in this text he's not. He's just in love, incompetent, but in love. Lynn.
Though a miller was also usually perceived as being slightly more well-to-do than the rest of the community. I mean, at some point he had the money to buy the mill, and I think one of the reasons they were perceived as dishonest is because they were relatively economically prosperous. So they must be getting that dishonestly somehow. So he would, sort of materially, he'd be the better choice than a Collier, who was pretty down market trade, but he does seem to be so earnest.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about the miller is part of the reason why he's might be so prosperous is the suspicion that he's constantly shortchanging people on their actual flour. That it's basically just this massive con. Anyway, we're going to move on. It's going to be a bit chaotic because I'm going to say Rachael, continue being Marian, but you may find you're talking to someone who's in the scene. I'll say Alan, continue being Dunstan, Lynn, remain as Belphegor for the duration. There may be some clashes, but we'll just see how it goes. It's as I say, we don't quite have the numbers planned, so it's all gone a little wibbly. Back to the other plot. Act 2, Scene 5. Enter Belphegor, still disguised as Castiliano, at one door with Marian, Earl Lacy at another door with Honorea.
Come, lovely Honorea, bright as day, as came Alcmene from her sacred bed with Jupiter shaped like Amphitryon, so show my love.
My love? Whom have we here? Sweet Musgrave? Alas, I'm betrayed.
Thou art my love.
No, mine.
Not yours, nor yours, but Musgrave's love. Oh, Musgrave, where art thou?
Be not displeased, my dear. Give me thy hand.
My hand, false earl, nor hand nor heart of mine. Couldst thou thus cunningly deceive my hopes? Could my father give consent thereto? For neither he nor thou shall force my love.
'Tis I, fair Honorea, am thy love. Forsake the worthless earl. Give me thy hand.
Whose hand would you have, sir? This hand is mine, and mine is yours. Then keep you to your own, yet are you mine, sir, and I mean to keep you. What, do you think to shake me off so soon? No, gentle husband, now 'tis too late. You should have looked before you came to bed.
Enter Robin Goodfellow, Akercock, with his master's gown.
Many good morrows to my gentle master and my new mistress. God give you both joy. What say you to your gown, sir, this cold morning?
Robin, I am undone and cast away.
Oh, master, cast away upon a wife?
Yea, Robin, cast away upon a wife.
Cast her away then, master, can you not?
No, sir, he cannot, nor he shall not do it.
Why, how know you? I'm sure you are not she.
Yes, sir, I am your mistress, as it falls.
As it falls, quoth ye? Marry, a foul fall is it.
Base rascal, dost thou say that I am foul?
No, it was foul play for him to fall upon you.
How know you that he fell? Were you so nigh?
She giveth Akercock a box on the ear.
Ah, mass, it should seem it was he that fell, if any, for you, methinks, are of a mounting nature. What, at my ears at first? Good beginning.
My dear delight, why dost thou stain thy cheeks, those rosy beds, with this unseemly dew? Shake off those tears that now untimely fall, and smile on me that am thy summer's joy.
Hapless am I to lose so sweet a prison, thus to obtain a weary liberty. Happy had I been to so to have remained, of which estate I ne'er should have complained.
Whoop, whoop. More marriages and all of a sort. Happy are they, I see, that live without them. If this be the beginning, what will be the ending?
Enter Earl Morgan and Dunstan.
Look, Dunstan, where they be. Displeased, no doubt. Try if thou canst work reconciliation.
My lord, I challenge you of breach of promise and claim your daughter here to be my wife.
Your claim is naught, sir. She's mine already.
Claim is naught, sir. I am none of yours.
Your claim is here, sir. Marian is yours. What, husband, newly married and inconstant? Greed we so well together all this night, and must we now fall out? For shame, for shame. A man of your years, and be so unstaid. Come away. There may no other be. I will have you, therefore you shall have me.
Oh, this is the bravest country in the world, where men get wives whether they will or no. I trow ere long some wench will challenge me.
Oh, is not this a goodly consequence? I must have her, because she will have me.
Ladies and gentlemen, hear Dunstan speak. Marriage, no doubt, is ordained by Providence, is sacred, not to be by vain effect turned to the idle humours of men's brains. Besides, for you, my Lady Honorea, your duty binds you to obey your father, who better knows what fits you than yourself. And 'twere in you great folly to neglect the Earl's great love, whereof you are unworthy, should you but seem offended with the match. Therefore, submit yourself to make amends, for 'tis your fault. So may you all be friends.
And, daughter, you must think what I have done was for your good, to wed you to the Earl who will maintain and love you royally. For what had Musgrave but his idle shape? a shadow to the substance you must build on. You will build substance on him, I trow. Who keeps a shrew against her will had better let her go.
Madame, conceal your grief and seem content, for, as it is, you must be ruled perforce. Dissemble till convenient time may serve to think on this despite and Musgrave's love.
Tell me, my dear, wilt thou at length be pleased?
As good be pleased, my lord, as not be eased. Yet though my former love did move me much, think not amiss, the same love may be yours.
What? Is it a match? Nay, then, since you agree, I cannot mend myself for aught I see. And therefore 'tis as good to be content. Come, lady, 'tis your lot to be my dame. Lordings, adieu. God send you all good speed. Some have their wives for pleasure, some for need.
Adieu, Castelliano. Are we friends?
Yes, yes, my lord, there is no remedy.
No remedy, my masters, for a wife. A note for young beginners, mark it well.
Exeunt. Let's put some distance between this scene and discussion. Act 2, Scene 6. And now enter Forrest, Captain Clinton, and Harvey.
Now, gallants, what imagine you of this? Our noses are all slit, for Mariana, the Spanish doctor, hath her to his wife, and Musgrave's hopes are dead for Honorea, for she is married to the Earl of Kent. 'Twill be good sport to see them when they rise, if so they be not gotten up already.
I say the devil go with them, all for me. The Spanish doctor marry Marian. I think that slave was born to cross me still. Had it not been my last day before the Earl, upon my conscience I'd have cracked his crown. When first he asked the lady for his wife, now he hath got her too, whom I desired. Why, he'll away with her ere long to Spain, and keep her there to dispossess our hopes.
No, I can comfort you for that, suppose. For yesterday he hired a dwelling house, and here he means to tarry all this year, so long at least, whate'er he doth hereafter.
A sudden plot form comes into my mind, and this it is. Miles Forrest, thou and I are partly well acquainted with the doctor. Ralph Harvey shall along with us to him. Him will prefer for his apothecary. Now, sir, when Ralph and he are once acquainted, his wife may often come into his house, either to see his garden or such like, for no doubt women will have means enough if they be willing, as I hope she will. There may we meet her, and let each one plead. He that speeds best, why let him carry it.
I needs must laugh to think how all we three in the contriving of this feat agree. But having got her, every man will strive how each may other of her love deprive.
Tut, Forrest, love amidst these friendly strifes. But say, how like you of my late device?
Surpassing well, but let's about it straight, lest he before our coming be provided.
Agreed.
And they exit. Act 2, Scene 7. Enter Musgrave and Marian, and we'll see if this doubling stands up.
Hush, cousin. Tell not me.
Oh, no, it
This
clearly
about-
doesn't, does it? No, it absolutely doesn't. Okay. Yeah. Looking ahead. No, I think it's going to have to be me. I think everybody's in this scene at some point.
I don't say an awful lot.
Do you not? Well, go for Marian, then Lois. No, Musgrave. Go for Musgrave, Lois. I think that'll work.
Okay.
See how it goes.
Gosh, cousin, tell not me, but this device was long ago concluded against you two, which divers reasons move me to imagine. And therefore these are toys to blind my eyes, to make me think she only loved me, and yet is married to another man.
Why, cousin Musgrave, are your eyes so blind you cannot see the truth of that report? Did you not know my lord was always bent, whatever came, to wed her to the Earl? And have you not, besides, heard the device he'd use to marry her against her will? Betrayed, poor soul, unto Earl Lacy's bed? She thought she held young Musgrave in her arms. Her morning tears might testify her thoughts. Yet thou shalt see she loves thee more than him, and thou shalt taste the sweets of her delights. Meantime, my house shall be thy mansion and thy abode, for thither will she come. Use thou that opportunity, and try whether she loved thee, or did but dissemble.
If she continue kind to me hereafter, I shall imagine well of her and you.
And enter Belphegor.
Oh, dame, in talk. What gentleman is this?
My cousin Musgrave, husband, comes to see you.
Musgrave, now, on my faith, heartily welcome. Give me thy hand, my cousin and my friend, my partner in the loss of Honorea. You two must needs be friend. We two must needs be friends, our fortunes like. Marry, yet I am richer by a shrew.
'Tis better to be a shrew, sir, than a sheep. You have no cause, I hope, yet to complain.
No, dame, for yet you know 'tis honeymoon. What? We have scarcely settled our acquaintance.
I doubt not, cousin, but ye shall agree, for she is mild enough, if she be pleased.
So is the devil, they say. Yea, cousin, yea. My dear and I doubt not, shall agree.
Sir, here be 2 or 3 gentlemen at the door, would gladly speak a word with your worship.
Indeed, said Akercock. Enter Clinton, Forrest, and Harvey. Harvey, Alan, please read.
Okay.
They need no bidding, methinks they come alone.
God save you, Signor Castiliano.
Oh, Captain, come stay. Welcome, all my friends.
Sir, we are come to bid God give you joy and see your house. Welcome, gentlemen. 'Tis kindly done to come to see us here.
This kindness makes me fear my master's head. Such hotspurs must have game, however they get it.
We have a suit to you, Castiliano.
What is it? If it lies in me, 'tis done.
Nay, but a trifle, sir, and that is, this same young man, by trade apothecary, is willing to retain unto your cures.
Marry, with all my heart, and welcome, too. What may I call your name, my honest friend?
Brave Harvey, sir, your neighbour here hard by. The Golden Lion is my dwelling place, where what you please shall be with care performed.
Drummer says Harvey. Welcome, all my friends. Let in, and hansel our new mansion house with a grousing round of Spanish wine. Come, cousin Musgrave, you shall be my guest. My dame, I trow, will welcome you herself.
No, boy, Lord Lacy's wife shall welcome thee.
So now the game begins. Here's some cheer toward. I must be skinker then. Let me alone. They all shall want ere Robin shall have none.
And everyone exits apart from Clinton and Harvey.
Sirrah Ralph Harvey, now the entry is made. Thou only hast access without suspect. Be not forgetful of thy agent here. Remember, Clinton was the man that did it.
My captain, now you talk in jealousy. Do not misconstrue my true meaning heart.
Ralph, I believe thee, and rely on thee. Do not too long absent thee from the doctor. Go in, carouse, and taint his Spanish brain. I'll follow, and my Marian's health maintain.
Captain, you well advise me. I'll go in, and for myself the love suits I'll begin.
And they exit. So, yes, remember Clinton was the man that did it. But that's enough on the Star Report. It's all gone quite horrid. So we've gone swiftly on from the bed trick has been enacted, and everyone is entangled together, and the scene swiftly moves the plot on to how can you cuckold these people instead. So that's where the plot has moved swiftly on from that to sort of moving swiftly on, as it were, which is sort of what I did there, because it was just going, that scene 5 was horrible. And yeah, it obviously wasn't supposed to be horrible. It's supposed to, look, you're with the wrong guy. Oh, yeah, you don't feel, horribly violated or anything, no. So, yeah, that was, comedy. Yeah, or is it? Lynn?
Well, I'm really confused. For one thing, I haven't really done a good job of attending to who's in love with whom. Like Musgrave and Marian are cousins, or distantly related, and Marian has married the devil. But there's somebody who's in love with her, or at least one person, maybe more than one, and she maybe returns his affection. I'm really confused. That might be a problem, keeping that clear for an audience. But the thing that's very weird to me, not from a modern sensibility necessarily, but in the sort of conventions of the early modern and medieval, is that these unions that we don't want to happen have been consummated, and so but the women are still aspiring to get with the men of their choice, and that's really unusual. Like, if you remember back, was it The Witch or The Witch of Edmonton, one of the witch ones, the bad guy lies to the object of his affections and says, "Oh, your boyfriend was killed in the war, you may as well marry me." But the boyfriend's not really dead, and he gets a witch to cast a spell on the new married husband, so that marriage is never consummated. And then in the end, the guy dies, and the gaunt hero gets to marry the girl. She's widowed, but that marriage was never sexualized. So that's okay. So it seemed to be important in early modern terms that the woman be a virgin when she gives herself to the man of her desires, and that's just out the window here, which is very weird to me.
Yeah, they are entrapped in these current marriage forms, and there is no backing out. They may be cuckolding. I don't think they're planning on actively changing statuses. I mean, obviously one of them's a demon, so presumably after a year and a day, he's going to disappear. Back down to hell, and in a sense, he's got, it's not his fault. He wasn't in on any of this. He did not give consent for where he's at. Marian is the one who tricked him, and Marian is now the centre of that cuckolding plot with Clinton and Forrest. Yes, a sudden plot form comes into my mind. I must use that in future discussion. I like that. It's I don't know if that's just a typo or whether that's a really nice meta line.
I think it's just a missing space.
Well to say, but either way,
it's an early way of saying a cunning plan.
But it's just plot form. Just sounds, it's a form of the plot. It sounds like it's like Return to the Audience. Stuff. So there's some. I think we're having issues with what we would call the A plot here. I think we're generally speaking, B plot I'm quite comfortable with so far. Danger and fear, and there's more play to come for what's going to happen with Shorthose and in the Grim plot line. But the A plot and Dunstan. What was that, Dunstan? How was that helpful? You're supposed to be some sort of magical friar from the distant past, doing woo things. Do something helpful. Man.
No, you can't do that. Not if you're holy. It's only the dark wizards who can do things like that to resolve the plot.
But he should at some, anyway. Things. Okay, final thoughts. I think we've got a fair idea where we are with this play. I'm hopeful that, say, the B plot with Grim will continue to please, because at the moment I've got a nice 30-40 minute show just lined up for Grim, because I that has legs. Rest of the play less so. I'm struggling to find an angle, because if it's a comedy, which tonally that seems to be what this thing is trying to do, the audience has kind of got to laugh and be, or at least be happy. And yeah, we hit midway through Act 2 and that's not going to happen. So that's a big barrier. And I don't have a solution off the top. I usually try and hunt my way to a solution and I can't at the moment find one. So not sure. Anyway, final thoughts around the room. Francis.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I think the misogyny and the xenophobia and everything else is just so over the top. You can't really take it too seriously. And I agree with Lynn. Okay, I'm not that familiar with early modern plays, but it does seem. I was expecting the marriages at the end, but here we've had them right in the middle, and I'm just wondering how the rest of the plot is going to unfold. But I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, how do you resolve the plot with Lacy? I mean, unless Lacy just dies, what happens to otherwise she can't marry the other guy because she's married now, and that's done. Well, I say not worried about Belphegor because he'll just go to hell. That's fine. He's already going where he deserves to go to a degree. I say, in a sense, he's actually not an unsympathetic character in a sense because he's just there to marry someone, and a deal was made. It was, it could have been a lot creepier than that. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting to see any sort of hint or idea where, if the A and B plots actually intersect, because there's damn all sign of it so far. And I think that does make your suggestion that so far you could quite happily chuck out most of what's the A plot, which has got the problematic elements in it, or the more problematic elements in it, and have a nice little pastoral romanceably comedy with Grimm and Joan as the central characters.
Yeah, I'm feeling that's currently our best option, but we never know. We might get surprise stuff tomorrow that will throw us in a different direction. I mean, there's always the educational angle for the more problematic stuff that we could use it in a demonstrative way, but not as necessarily a proper production. But there's only so many times we can do that. Lynn,
it does seem to have ticked just about every box on the early modern bingo. Three bed tricks, casual xenophobia, misogyny,
disguise,
dodgy demons.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's take the piss out of the working class. Pretty well all boxes have been covered, haven't they?
Lynn.
Yeah, a lot of boxes have been ticked, but in a way, it's also really weird. I mean, the framing device set in Hades is weird, and it turns out, I guess, the structural reason for that is so we get rid of. It's not Bellerophon, it's Belphegor. So that gives us a way to get rid of Belphegor. He goes back to hell. The marriage was never really legitimate because he's not actually human. Marian is free to marry Harvey. But still, it's kind of a weird frame. And looking at the character list, I guess we go back there because Pluto's a character in the second act. So that's weird. It's weird that the women have slept with men that they don't love and are still considered desirable by the men they do love. That's unusual. I mean, I don't disapprove of that, but that's structurally very, very odd. And like Alan says, I'm waiting for Grimm the Collier and that little love triangle or love quadrangle or whatever it is to have any kind of plot intersection with the Marian Honorea plot. Maybe it doesn't, and the Changeling, really the two plots never really intersect. The Madhouse plot is very easily excised and usually is. So I guess that happens. But yeah, there's a lot that's really weird going on here, but there's also so much stuff that's disturbing at the same time.
Lois, any final thoughts?
I keep wondering if there's any way one could work this in with the other Grimm the Collier plot, which I think is in Damon and Pythias, it's completely different. But I mean, the guy is still called Grim the Collier, isn't he? And he's sort of shaved and cheated by the pages. I mean, I don't know if there is a sort of standard, some alternate cycle about Grim the Collier in ballads and songs and, all over the place. And these just happen to be the only two examples we know of it. But if you wanted to make a full play, you could, I suppose, have all the adventures of Grim the Collier and nicely rolled into one.
I mean, we've got a different Collier in Like Will to Like as well, who sort of pops in, but he's a Tom. He's not a Grim, and he's a pucker, swindling Collier, not a nice Collier. So, but yes, the other Colliers are available. So maybe that's an element as well that we could sort of compile things. Rachael, any final thoughts?
Yeah. What Lynn said about that opener, it's not until she said that it made me think, like, what do you call it? The guy who's supposed to be like Menelaus, but his name's from the Fairy Queen, that he's talking about, like, somebody getting cuckolded. So I wonder if that is going to be part of, like, an element in this in the second half. I really like the Grim the Collier parts, and I wonder if you could just take that out and make it into a short interlude, if you wanted to do just a bunch of interlude plays. That's about it. The main plot is compared to what we're doing in the evenings, is a lot less I don't know what you would call it. A lot less sour, bitter to go down, but I'm not necessarily feeling that part.
Yeah. So it's we've hit this problem with comedies before, where the shift in attitudes to various elements make it really difficult to treat it as a comedy, because certain scenes are just not going to land, which sort of takes the steam out a lot of what you're trying to do. Because at least with a tragedy, if people are acting horribly, they die, and that's great, and so you can sort of bypass that sort of problem. Whereas with a comedy, the people have got to have a good time. So but we don't have to come up with all the answers now, and maybe there will be more answers to come in the future. All that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Bye. 'Tis better to be a shrew, sir, than a sheep.